start
Professor.
All right, I'm here with Al Phillips, a retired Penn State professor, and we're conducting this interview to get some background on the work that he's currently doing and some opinions on GMOs. Mr. Phillips, could you start by giving us your education background?
Well, I got my PhD degree in biochemistry from Michigan State University, and then I was an undergraduate prior to that in Louisiana State University down all the way in Baton Rouge.
Currently, this interview that we're conducting is about plant biotechnology, and one question that we wanted to ask was, where do you see this field going in about 10 years?
Well, it's a very rapidly expanding field. Currently, I see a lot of people working on energy generation using plant systems, for perhaps ethanol production or other important products. But then I also see that they'll have many other materials that aren't energy related that plants can produce. Certainly foodstuffs as well.
Going off of that, one of the techniques that plant biotechnology uses is to genetically modify these plants in order to fulfill these tasks such as biofuels and increase propagation. But right now there's a lot of negative feedback when you present GMOs to the public. Why do you think there's such negative public feedback on GMOs?
Well, my own opinion on this is people don't understand very much what GMO organisms are and how they are not so terribly different from all other organisms, because obviously what a GMO organism is something that's been usually laboratory derived by some genetic operations. But in nature, nature's always doing genetic modifications. It's just part of the way nature operates. So in reality, most people, I think, are a little concerned about GMOs simply because they don't know the difference between what has been done to make genetically modified organisms versus what happens in nature.
So would you say that you support GMOs, or what stance do you have on GMOs?
Oh, I'm certainly not opposed to them, and I think it's a very desirable thing, provided, of course, it's done with some intelligence, and what the organisms that result are able to do is something that people understand and can appreciate and know there's no real hazard involved in having GMO organisms.
So a lot that's going on right now and holding back the progress on GMOs is the world's perspective on plant biotechnology. Would you give us any insight on how you think that we are going to be able to change the world's perspective and hopefully one day be able to conduct more experiments on GMOs?
Well, I'm not sure this is going to happen very quickly, because in the U.S., I think GMO opposition is not as strong as I understand it may be in some other countries. I just wonder how much of this might be education that's needed to convince people that genetically modified organisms are not some sort of Frankenstein species, and hopefully over time more people will come to understand that there's really no great harm in having GMOs. That's assuming, of course, that experience with the current GMOs, or ones that are developed, don't show problems, and I'm not anticipating there will be. As far as I know, those GMO species that we have currently are not demonstrating any adverse effects on anything, but people can still be nervous about this because I think mostly they don't understand what the consequences are.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Sure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.